Hi, everybody. It's Angel. We have a very special live for you tonight. I'm really excited. We're just going to do a little bit of housekeeping before we invite our very special guest, Glenn Laycock, who is waiting in the wings. We are going to be talking about haunted houses and paranormal investigation, and Glenn is really cool. He is the director of the Ontario Paranormal Society York Region chapter, and he is an amazing captain of amazing team that I am proud to announce I am now a team member of, an official team member of. So we're going to bring, oh yeah, so just so everybody knows, today is not a reading day. So if you have questions and readings, wait for your pop-up live. Today is not a reading day. However, today is a day to ask your questions about what paranormal investigations are. Hi, everybody. Hi, Silo 901 and 5 Foot and Feisty Man. You come everything. You rock, girl. Thank you, everybody, for the support you give me. You guys are just amazing. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go back here so I can find Glenn. There he is. And I'm going to wave at you. And I'm going to go here. Hang on a second. I got to remember how to do this. Hold on. Haha, found it. Okay, so now all I have to do is go like this. I'm still learning you now. Glenn, return. There he is. And all you have to do is accept the request, and then we can start talking about Halloween and haunted houses and paranormal investigation and all of his wonderful experiences. So I'm really, really excited to have him on. It'll just take him a minute to join us. So just so everybody out there knows, my name is Angel Morgan. I'm a psychic and animal communicator and part of this amazing team with Tops York Region. And we're just waiting for Glenn Laycock to come in and we can talk about paranormal investigation. So I sent the invite to him. We're just waiting. And let's see who's here. Colleen Lepard is here. McLean Noella is here. Sile 0901 XX is here. Wafa joined. 5 Foot and Feisty is here. Tops York Region. That's awesome. I'm glad you're here too. Okay, I think we've got, let's see, what have we got here? Oh, hang on a second. It says Glenn Laycock. Okay, well, try that again, Glenn. Sometimes it takes a couple of times for you to join, or you can actually request to join as well. So maybe you want to request to join on my end, but I will request to join. Sorry, guys, just a few technical difficulties. No biggie. So I'm going to invite you again. If you have a hard time getting in, Glenn. He's here. He's here.
Hi.
Yay.
I made
Hi.
it. Hi. I had to use my phone. My computer won't accept the request. I don't know why, but I'm here.
Oh, yeah, because it's Instagram. Oh, I'm so sorry. I should have told you. I gave you all those wonderful instructions except that one. You can't get on via your laptop or computer. It can only be done via phone.
Okay. Great to see you.
Great to see you, too. I'm just going to turn up my volume so I can actually hear you. That is perfect. Yeah, you look great.
Thank you. I'm a year older.
That's right, because you just had your birthday. Yeah, so happy birthday, Glenn.
Thank you. Thank you. And
okay.
Go ahead. Sorry. I was just going to say,
no, you were going to say something.
I'm so excited to have you on our team. I just wanted to throw that out there right now. This is amazing. Our team is so excited. Everybody, the whole team just loves you. And
I am so excited. The last time we were together was the first time we were together on an investigation, and it was amazing. It was so validating for me as a psychic, and I'll tell that story a little bit later, so everybody stay tuned. But hey, yeah, everybody, if you have questions about the paranormal, if you have questions about any of the things that Glenn is going to show us tonight, please put your questions in the comments, and we will try to get to all the questions that you guys have as best we can. Okay, so Glenn, tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, who you work with.
Well, I am the director of the Ontario Paranormal Society York Region chapter. I'm what you would call a paranormal skeptic. and I've been doing this for about 5-6 years now. And the reason I got into this was I never ever believed in this sort of thing. Never ever believed in the paranormal. And we bought this house that we're still in now. And I remember the first day we were here, I went to go in and check the pump room because we're on a well, and the door violently slammed in my face. And things just went on from there. We were hearing voices, things were being moved, furniture being moved. I remember the old tablecloth trick. You would come home and all the items would still be on the table, but the tablecloth would be on the floor.
Oh, wow.
And screaming, like we heard a woman, people would come over and they would say, "Is there a TV on downstairs?" Because you can hear it.
Oh my God, excuse me.
Bless you. Hey, this is nothing to sneeze at. This is
yeah. Absolutely, I agree.
But yeah, people would say, like, "Is there a TV on downstairs?" Because you could hear conversations going on in our basement. We could hear, at that time we'd hear a woman crying in our basement. And I think the capper for me was, we were watching TV one night and I looked up and there was an older woman standing in our kitchen. And gray, pallid face, black eyes, kind of stooped.
Yeah, someone who wasn't paying rent.
Someone who wasn't paying rent, no. No. And that's when and of course there's no one to turn to. I mean, who do you go for help to? At the time I didn't know, and you felt silly telling somebody. And that's where, I think I told you before, I went to your friends, our friends at the Hedge Witch.
Yes. Yes.
And I walked in, and the woman, and she didn't even ask me a question. I walked in, I said hi, and she goes, "Hi, whoa. What's going on with your house?"
Yeah. And that's what they do, right? Like the girls at the Hedge Witch, they're the real deal. You know, if you guys are ever in Sharon, Ontario, you guys have to go check them out. It's the Hedge Witch, and their page is the Hedge Witch store on Instagram. I was actually there for the day today, and I was doing readings all day, and it was really, that's what it was about today. It was a lot of people asking about their own abilities and how they can utilize them and that kind of stuff. And you know, and it's really funny because you work with this kind of stuff, but you too are sensitive, whether or not you agree with that.
I've been told that before, and but I guess I'm more going for the hard evidence side of things, like and that's where I think you work so well with our team, because you were verifying what we were picking up, and we were kind of verifying what you were getting.
Oh my God, that was like, I have to say, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but I have to say, you know, I am one of those psychics who never liked technology. It just wasn't my thing. Like you watch, I'm sorry, but you know, you watch the Ghostbusters and you watch all these movies, and you know, there's all this kind of stuff out there. And so it kind of turned me off. And I wasn't a believer either when I started. So that was, again, one of those things, well, there has to be a limit to this, right? And then I come on an investigation with Glenn and his team. And what happens every time I pick something up, the machine, one of your machines would go off. And it's really cool. But it's really cool because machines they're not invested in it, right? Like it's not like working with another human, which is wonderful. But, you know, even as a reader, there's a party going, okay, well, you know, did they catch it at the same time? Maybe it was something I said. And there's always room for doubt. With machines, there's no room for doubt.
It's either going to work or it's not going to work. And you would pick up on something, and then our K2, which is an EMF meter, and electromagnetic field meter, is what it picks up electromagnetic fields. Like all your appliances all give off an electromagnetic field. Yeah. The idea is that a spirit is energy, and it will pick up on that as well. And you would say, hey, and next thing you know, our meter would be going off at the same time. And that was it kind of validated each other. Like, okay, I love the idea of the two different styles.
And what's really nice is they meshed so well. And that was the other thing I was worried about. I'm like, how does this world and that world work together? And it just, and you know why it flowed? I have to say this, and I still talk about this. You're a really amazing captain. And I will tell you, I will tell you, there's no ego involved with you, because at one point there was so much happening, and I kind of stepped in, which I felt bad about. And you're like, no, don't feel bad. And I was just like, okay, you have to go here and you have to do this. And you're just like, okay, guys, listen to her. And I'm thinking, this is amazing. Like we just worked well together, but you were able to really be that leader in the leadership role. And that's important, I think, for circumstances like this, because weird things can happen.
Exactly. And that's the thing. You want people there to keep an eye on each other. But also, the people on my team, I have them there for a reason. I believe in them. I trust them. And if they have an idea, run with it. Go with it. If I see that it's not safe, then I might step in and go, whoa, hang on a second. But I mean, no, I mean, everybody on our team, and I mean, there's Darlene, there's Justin, there's Jen, and now Amanda.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Yeah. I know. I haven't actually met her. Darlene knows her very well. I haven't met her in person yet, but I can't wait to meet her in person. And she's going to be a trainee. And I already kind of poked some fun at her that part of the trainee job is to find out where the nearest Timmy's is in relation to the site. And of course, I don't mean that, but that's sort of what that's just me.
So I have a question for you.
Yes.
How did you get involved with the Paranormal Society? With how did you get involved in all of this? Now you've been to the Hedgeridge. Diana said, "Hey, what's up here?" How did you get involved with all of this?
Well, I started to get involved with another paranormal team, and it didn't really go the direction that I was hoping for, because I know what it's like to have people not believe you. And so I wanted to be a person that could say, hey, look, you know what? I don't think you're crazy. We'll help you with it. And it turned out that it was more public appearance. And that to me is not helping people. So I moved on, and I co-founded a team here in York Region. And that we did gangbusters, and things happen, people, drift apart. So we folded that team, and I was going to kind of just step away for a while, take a bit of a holiday from it. And then I was approached by the Ontario Paranormal Society, because I've always kept a very good rapport with all the other teams that I've met. I like to I just want to be friends with people. I want to meet people. And they approached me and they said, would you mind starting a chapter in York Region? The other team is based out of Brantford. And they said, like, it would be your team. You pick your team. You're running the team. It's just run with it. Like, be an independent team from us. And I was honored that they thought of me like that. I have so much respect for them, and nothing but good things to say about they call themselves the Ontario Paranormal Society. I'm the York Region chapter, and they're absolutely amazing. Tim and Jen, they are incredible people, and Carolyn and Adam and Grant and Melissa.
And you know what? And it's true, because when you have an organization, the organization tends to feel like those in charge, right? So whether it's you or the person who is in charge of the Ontario Paranormal Society, you guys make it work, and you can see it, right? And I mean, I follow you guys on Instagram, and you guys can follow, at Tops York Region. You can also follow the _Ontario _Paranormal _Society. Big long one there. So you can follow these guys too, to watch some of their footage and to follow along with their cases, because Glenn, you work really, really hard on this, because I know you sometimes will take weeks with footage. Like, you guys get all kinds of, and we're going to talk about, like what it is like to actually, you know what, let's go there. What is it like? Take us through a night of paranormal activity, a paranormal case, or what would you call it? An investigation?
I would call it an investigation. I think one thing I don't like doing is I don't like going to sites that dozens of other teams have been through. I'm more about just helping people in their homes, in their residence, or in their business. So what we'll do is we'll have a phone interview. They'll tell us what's going on. We can ask a bunch of questions, and then we'll try to do an on-site, but sometimes that doesn't happen. We just end up going. And we'll go in, and and it looks like we're moving in. We bring in cases and cases of equipment and tech. Well, you've seen them.
Yes.
And we'll set up like a command center. We'll put IR cameras all around the house. And that just sort of gives us like a view of the entire house. Then we'll set it up as teams. And teams will do a walkthrough, and they'll sit in each room. And the makeup of the teams is always different. Something will go like an all-female team and an all-male team and then a female team. See what gets the best response. And honestly, it's not like the TV shows. The TV shows, like, they're a little over the top.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is just sitting quietly and listening and using your own senses and recording. And sometimes, if you're lucky, you'll hear something first person, A lot of times it's afterwards. I have a cat with the zoomies going by here right now. Sorry.
It's okay. You see mine. She's going crazy too. It's in the air.
And we'll try different things. We'll sometimes if the homeowner is there and they're getting experience all the time, we'll use them as almost like a trigger to say, okay, this person's here, and we'll sit them down with us, and we'll just ask a ton of questions. And we have IR cameras, we have full spectrum cameras. You've seen my stick figure camera that we use.
And we're going to show you a couple of these as well, everybody who's sitting out there. So you got to stay tuned with us because we're going to be talking about the equipment, which is really cool. So,
and we'll just basically we'll use a spirit box. A spirit box is basically, it scans radio frequencies, but it has no antenna, so it won't pick up a radio station.
Right.
It goes up and down the bandwidth, and it's a lot of, you see them on the TV shows, a lot of static. They're the way they go.
Yeah.
We use those, but I'm kind of trying to get away from that a little bit. I'm more into the quiet time EVP sessions. And you will be shocked when you play your recordings back. And that takes hours and hours and hours because you might have 6 recorders going in one location. An average investigation is 5 to 6 hours long.
Yeah.
That's a lot of footage, and you got to go through every single, with squishing your headphones in your ears and going through every single minute. Oh, I think I caught something. Go back, amplify.
Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah.
And this video.
So is there a reason that you guys do this at night? Is there a specific reason?
No. Some people think there's a thing called the witching hour where activity will pick up because around 2 a.m, people are asleep. So they're, I guess, defenseless, or their defenses are lowered. I'm a believer if it's happening at night, it's happening during the day.
Agreed.
But we go in the dark because you're using IR cameras and full spectrum cameras. They're going to pull more information in the dark than they will in the light.
Yeah.
And that's the main reason for the darkness.
Very cool. Yeah. So when you do these investigations, do you have a really good, like, does it, okay, here's the question I'm trying to ask. When you're setting up to the night that you're going in, do you feel a shift that happens? Does it ever change for you, the energy in the house?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We learned this recently at Investigation. We went in very early. And so the homeowner just said, here's the house and it's all yours. We're not going to be there that day. So we showed up in the afternoon so we get a really good feel for the house. We ended up having a pizza and we're laughing and just talking. It was almost like a moment for the team to really get to know each other. And when we first went into the house, it was very, I don't know how to put it. It felt thick. It was and by the time we were ready to start investigating, here we've been talking and having a good laugh, and the atmosphere in the house completely changed.
Yeah.
And I think that actually, that brought down the amount of activity we would have had because we cheered the place up. Because they were getting behavior. They were getting like stomping feet. They were getting people like it was almost like like angry presence. And we changed the atmosphere of the house just by the way we were acting. And I think that did affect it. So now we're trying to sort of change that, go in, set up, and go. And so our own mood doesn't change the atmosphere of the house before we can actually,
And that actually does make sense, because you have to understand that with spirits, there is a certain vibration that they sit on. So if that vibration is shifted in a dramatic way, it gets uncomfortable for them. So they won't show up. You're also strangers in their house, right? Yep. They're looking at this as their space. So here you are, you're someone new, and they're just like, whoa. Wait a second, what's going on here? Unless it's a loop, right? So a loop is a kind of spirit that's there, but they're not cognizant of anybody being there. They're just there. Have you guys ever had that? Have you ever guys had that?
Yeah. We did a place one time where every time you walk in the house, I don't know if you call this a loop or not, we get no other response than you walk in the house, and if you listen carefully, you'd hear, who's there? You'd walk back out, back in, who's there?
Yeah.
And I would almost call that a loop, because that was it. It was almost a response to a stimuli, and then that was nothing more.
Yeah, exactly. And that's it. They're basically, and that's why we call them loopers. They're basically residual energy that's still there. It's not actually a spirit. It is a spirit. It's almost like leftover. You know, there is
residual haunt, I believe they call it.
Sorry?
I've heard the term residual haunting.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Like there's so many different labels. Psychics call them loopers, right? So that's basically the same thing. It's all the really geeky names that we have for everything, right? All the cool names. So tell me,
Yes.
the machines that you use, right? You were talking about a full spectrum camera, an IR camera is what you called it?
Yeah, basically it's a camera with night vision.
Okay, so
Yeah.
do you have any of those? Do you have any toys to show us?
I do. Let's see.
Notice the smile creeping along my face because I think they're cool. I really do.
This is my favorite camera. Okay, it's a Sony video camera. It has extremely good night vision on it. Plus, I've also added an IR light. This is Old Faithful. I have been through so many adventures with this camera, and of course, I'm always looking for a deal. And what's better than having one of those cameras than having two of those cameras? I just got another.
So, but you have one that's like made out of a Nintendo.
This camera here. Okay. Now, you'll probably see the camera on the base of it. That's actually from an Xbox console. It's a Kinect camera.
That's very cool. So you put that together yourself?
Yeah, I built that one myself. And so essentially, that camera is designed to pick up a human shape. So you can play video games by moving your body around, and it'll follow you. So with that camera, it's constantly looking for a human shape, but it's also.
Wait, is that the stick figure one?
Yep, that's the stick figure.
That's the stick. Okay, yeah. Tell people about the stick figure one. Oh my God, this is so cool.
First of all, you have to be very, very careful of that stick figure because you get a ton of false readings. I mean, I've seen people have like a 20-minute conversation with a chair, and then you sort of go, "Excuse me, that's a false reading." But what it'll do is it works in the dark. And it's got a tablet attached to it, so you can see what the camera's picking up. And if it picks up on something it interprets as a human shape, it will trace it out like a stick figure.
Yeah. Yeah, and I actually witnessed this firsthand because we were in the basement of this particular home that I was with you guys, and there was a suit of armor, and we had another sensitive with us, and it was really cool because both of us picked up on the same thing, even like the height of this person, et cetera, et cetera. So at the end of the night, we're all downstairs in the basement, and all of a sudden you could see the figures of the two people who were standing by, but then there was a third figure. And I swear to God, and Glenn, you saw this too. The stick figure actually moved around and then went up the stairs.
Yeah, at first I thought it was a false reading. I thought, oh, that's just the banister. And then it stepped away from the banister and ran up the stairs and around the corner. Yeah. And I started thinking, okay, so that's pretty good. And
what was really neat though is it validated myself and the other person because it was almost exactly the same height. And both of us were like, oh my God, because it was almost exactly the same height as we had seen it. Right. And it was just these little tiny things that you just go, it's undeniable. Yep. It's undeniable. And we're a tangible society, right? We want that. Like even me as a psychic, I groove on that, yay, not crazy.
Right? Well, an example I had with that camera was we used it at an investigation one time and we were getting nothing. We were told that the homeowner was a heavy smoker who had passed away, or the business owner was at a business. Right. And he was a heavy smoker. So we put his cigarette down. And within minutes, the 6-foot-tall stick figure showed up and you can see it reaching for the cigarette. Yeah. And I stepped in on the picture and you see me traced out. You see the figure beside me. And I reached over and I said, my name is Glenn, pleased to meet you. And it reached over and it shook my hand. Wow. And you could feel it too. I remember you saying you could. Static. It was like a static charge on like electricity on my hand.
Yeah, those are the two energy fields coming together, right? And his is going to be so much bigger than yours too. That's incredible. Okay, so Tiffany Ann Chadwick says, "Hey guys, Angel looks like somebody really wants Mama's attention." Yes, she does. Glenn, I love watching your videos. My cousin Justin is a part of your amazing team. Hey. So let's see who else.
I see Nancy Warren is like. There's a girl, Nancy's on here.
I see that. Someone wants your attention, Angel. And let's see. The Ontario Paranormal Society says Brantford in the house. In the house. All right. I'm just seeing if anybody has any questions. Yeah, that's a psychic question. If you guys have questions about the work that Glenn does, any of the machines that he uses, or what it's like to actually work an investigation, please ask your questions. This is your time. Let's see. That's so funny. Somebody says she isn't doing readings tonight. No, just so for all of you who've just shown up, we have the director of the Ontario Paranormal Society, York Region Chapter. See, I'm getting better at that, eh? Glenn
Yep.
Laycock, and he's also a paranormal investigator. Tonight is not a reading night. Tonight we're talking about paranormal investigations, haunted houses, how it works, how it's done, and it's really, really cool. So Glenn, do you have any other gadgets before we move on?
Sorry, I'm going to bounce you around here for a second.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
That's okay. I'm going to see who else we have here. Oh, look at everybody. Hey, Red Dragon 76 in the house. How is ya? Wesley Lou says, I had to smudge today. The electrical energy was so negative. You know what? Sometimes that's accumulative, right? So sometimes it's as easy as smudge. So smudge your house before you call the Paranormal Society. But if it keeps up, call them. Call them. Okay? So you were saying.
Well, this is the K2 I was telling you about.
Oh, I love this machine.
Yeah, and I don't know if my phone will set it off. You know, sometimes the phones will set it off. You have to be now in your home. Like I was saying earlier, electrical appliances will give off an EMF level of reading, like a gauge meter. It's actually flashing now. That's my phone getting it to go.
Okay.
Okay. Now, your EMF reading in your house should be 0 to 0.5. That's normal. And these were actually designed originally to find faulty wiring. If you have bad wiring, you put up the wall, it'll light up like a Christmas tree. And I think we did a house one time, and it was incredibly active. It was just stupid crazy in there. It's the best way to put it. It was just ridiculous. The EMF reading in the house was 145. Now that's actually unhealthy. And the lowest reading we got in the house was at the electrical panel. But that should be the highest reading in the house.
Yeah.
And that place was absolutely craziness. There was one room in the basement. They wouldn't even go in because they would see glowing red eyes in there all the time in the dark. So I went down there. I'm a rookie. I went down there by myself. And the recording is actually kind of humorous because you hear me in there in the dark going, so I'm by myself. Anybody want to say hi? And this low wolf howl went to the entire room. And then you hear me go, cool. So, but
now, was that the same house in which you were pushed?
No, that was a different house.
That was a different place? Okay, yeah. Because I know there's that story too.
Yeah, actually there was, in our own home, my wife was pushed.
Oh, it was your wife? I thought it was
No, she was actually pushed to the ground. She was walking through the house and something pushed her from behind and she ended up on her hands and knees on the floor. Yeah. We decided, okay, we really have to deal with this.
Yeah, I actually moved into a house once, and as soon as I walked in, I felt the presence of a woman, but I was uncertain, and I kept feeling like she was really angry. And then I remember a couple of days in, I was at the top of the stairs of the basement, and I remember getting shoved, and I just kind of slightly turned and I saw her and I'm like, oh no, you did not. And so after that, it was like, okay, we're smudging this house, we're clearing this house. So that would be my next question to you. When you have this kind of activity, what are you there for exactly? Are you there to confirm and validate, to cleanse and like, what do you do?
A lot of clients that we see, they just want the validation. They just want to for so many times I've heard the statement where a spouse will say to another spouse, see, I told you I wasn't crazy. Yes. And we see that a lot. And a lot of them just want to know, can you just validate what I'm experiencing? Because I'm thinking I'm going crazy here. Yeah. And after we show them, sometimes they're fine with it. Like we go in and we can give them advice. We can help them with a smudging or a clearing. Yeah. Some people want it, some people don't. They just want to know that they're yes, and we'll give them a copy. All the evidence that we find, we'll pick out, like, the highlights, and then we'll also give them all the raw footage, and we give them a copy of everything. There you go. That's yours. So there's your details. Yep. And that's it. But some people, yes, they want it cleared, and then we'll go back in and we'll do a smudging. Darlene on our team is sort of our expert for doing clearing.
And just so people out there know, the smudging and the spirit clearing are two different things. When you smudge, the spirits will be sent away, but they will come back. When you're doing a clearing, that's a whole nother thing when you're sending them and crossing them over. So just so everybody knows, because I've had a lot of people like, oh yeah, I had a ghost in my house, but I smudged them away. No, but you can you can smudge and then protect there are ways of doing it. So I just wanted to clarify that.
You made me laugh so much when we did you did the first investigation with us, and one of my team went in the dining room, and she came back and she says, there's something going on in that dining room. There's a man or something there. And then a few minutes later, you came up to me and said, there's a presence in the dining room. I hope it's okay, but I just crossed him over.
I remember that. I was like, I'm so sorry. I really felt the need to do that, but I feel really bad.
No.
I have a friend, and she goes on ghost walks because she gets so upset. She gets so pissed off. And she'll specifically to go on tours and ghost walks so she can clear the houses. And I'm like, do you understand that those ghosts may want to be there? Those people, they want to keep them. And I think that's really important to understand too, that you're right. Some families don't necessarily want to get rid of the ghosts, and some spirits don't want to cross over. And it's a symbiotic relationship, right? Like not every single case means that you have to send somebody over. Sometimes, the spirit will adopt the family, or the family will adopt the spirit.
One bit of advice I'd like to give, sorry, I have another cat coming in here. One bit of advice that I'd like to give people is there are people that will, they think, oh, my house might be haunted. So they're constantly doing like Ouija boards and EVP sessions.
Yeah.
If you don't want to have activity in your house, don't
invite it in.
You're gonna either invite something in, or you're gonna stir up the presence that you do have.
Agreed. And that's a really important thing to say too, because I agree. Like I don't mind, Ouija boards and things, as long as you know what you're doing. And most people don't, right? Yeah. So don't invite something in. That is the best advice. So I have someone here, Hayashi Danielle and actually Garciana Fernandez. They both have the same kind of question. Hayashi says, what's the strangest thing you've ever seen, Glenn? And Graziana says, what is the scariest experience you ever had, Glenn? So let's start with strangest and then scariest, unless they're the same.
Strangest. I don't know. Like with this field, how do you pick out the strangest? Wow. I'm going to say one of the more bizarre ones is something that we just had recently. And it was a house that we did, and we found this little cubby hole in the basement. The house is well over 100 years old. And there were scratch marks all on the wall, like fingernail scratch marks all over the walls in one little spot. And as we got looking at it, we realized that inside the scratch marks were the words spelled "go away."
Wow.
And then just after that, when we left that room, a ball was in the middle of the floor, a children's ball that wasn't there before.
Yeah.
And then one of our DVR cameras that was set up picked up a presence that walked out of that room, and you can see it. It's about 2 feet tall, and it shimmers and walks by the camera. Yeah. That to me was amazing. Yeah. Scariest was at a paranormal investigation, and you'll laugh. I think I've told you this story. It was a really active house, and my camera battery was just sucked dry within minutes. So I was in the dark, pitch black, trying to change my battery in my camera. One of my teammates walked up behind me, and I didn't know she was there, and went right behind my ear, and she went, "Boo." And honest to God, I almost fell over. That
wasn't even a ghost moment. No. That's what
I've never been scared at an investigation, but that scared the crap out of me. Pardon me.
I will tell you, the scariest moment in my entire career, my son was 11 years old, and for the summer, I thought I would be smart and give him a summer job. And so he would come and do house clearings with me, right? Because he's fairly gifted in himself, and he's done a lot of work with me. Not anymore, he doesn't, but he did. So anyway, we went to this one house, and it belonged to a friend of ours, and everything was fine. Everything was pretty groovy until we got to the basement. And there was this room, and you could feel from The Exorcist. And so I'm like, okay, let's see what this, and I couldn't get past the door. And my son turns around, literally pushes me aside, 11 years old, and he walks right into the room, and he stops. And all you see is the back of him. It was like a movie. And I was terrified. I'm like, Joseph, Joseph, come here, Joseph. And there was nothing. And then all of a sudden, his hands went down and he was like, you could see his head go up and he goes, get out now. And he stomped his leg and there was like the whole house shook. And then he turned around, he comes out and he goes, okay, they're gone. And I walked in and I'm like, oh my God. And I'm shaking. At this point, I'm shaking. And I remember we went to the car and it was like the mom and the kid was like, I'm really sorry. And I'm sitting there going, don't even speak to me right now. Don't even talk to me. I was infuriated, terrible, like anything could have happened. Anything. And this was really early in my career, right? So it was a really interesting learning for me, twofold. One, in safeties. Two, in how egotistical an 11-year-old can be. And three, how powerful children are. Yes. Right. And the reality is they are really, really powerful. But to see your own child in that situation, it was really frightening. And there was a part of me knew everything was going to be okay. But the fact that I couldn't get in.
Right.
Right. And that's a really scary happenstance. Have you ever had anything like that where you just felt like you were on that precipice of not being in control?
Yeah. Actually, your story kind of reminded me of another weird, I got actually two real quick ones I'll tell you.
Go for it. We have time. That's what we're here for.
Okay. So it was the same thing. It was a child involved. We were out to do an investigation where something had been tormenting this. I think the child was 12 years old. And something had just been tormenting him constantly. We were in the room with them. And this is where you really have to watch your teammates when you do an investigation. Always watch your teammate. That's why nobody goes in alone. It's like you want to have someone to keep an eye on somebody else. And nobody noticed, but I guess partway through, we were doing a session and the child was there with us. And all of a sudden, I just started, I didn't know where I was. And I started to kind of rock back and forth and I went blank. And it was finally my wife, she was watching on the DVR setup and she said, what's going on with Glenn? I didn't know where I was. It was like, I use the term jumped. Something jumped me. Yeah. And I didn't know where I was. And so finally, like somebody came in and said, like, get up. Can you stand up? And I could barely stand up. Wow. And I was teetering. I walked out of the room. And as soon as I left the room, oh, okay, I'm good. I'm fine. Yeah. And that was bizarre. And then the child actually said, you need to leave now. I'm not your child. You need to leave me alone. And then it was like a sound of a wind went through the room and it was gone. Yeah. He was gone. It was gone. And there's actually, I just saw somebody on here, Nancy, she just.
I was just going to say that. So when you got scratched, I was just going to remind you of that. Yeah, absolutely. Let's go there. You must be psychic. We're so on the same page.
Well, we did a house and it was a stupid mistake on my part. At first we were getting nothing. And we have a rule, don't challenge. Never challenge. Just don't do that. You don't want to poke something and get stirred up. And I just said, I don't think you're here. Prove me wrong. And I jumped about a foot and something took a swipe at me and I had two claw marks down my butt cheek.
Ow.
And burned. And it burnt for a couple of hours, like really burnt.
Yeah.
And it got my attention. It definitely got my attention.
Oh, for sure.
And of course, everybody's like, let's get a picture. I said, no, this is not going on our social media. This is
no, not this one. Thank you very much. Now, Danielle Perez Arias says, and this is really interesting. I don't believe in that kind of thing. Every time something scary happens, I find out what happens at the end. What's really interesting is that you're actually quite skeptical. You're quite practical because even when I was on the investigation with you that one time, tell us about dust bunnies and orbs.
Yes. Some of my team are total believers in orbs. Orbs to me are dust. I could take a pillow into someone's house and make it look so haunted you'd never want to be there. Yeah. And an orb has to do something very, very, very special. Very specific.
I agree with you.
Now, that being said, the night you were with us, yes, we got a lot of dust orbs going around. But you went into this one room and sat down. That was a room with the baby picture on the wall.
Yes. Yeah, I remember that.
You sat down, and as soon as you started talking, something exited that room so fast it left a tail on the video that was about 4 feet long as it came out of that room.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that dust orbs, yeah, they're gonna drift out. They're gonna move fast. But this actually was almost like a line It's
Yeah.
like out of that room. That to me was interesting. I'm not going to say it was paranormal, but it definitely was not dust and it wasn't a bug.
Yeah, and
So,
that's it, right? Like you have to be practical. For me, even right as a psychic, you got to rule out the practical before you go to the esoteric. And
exactly.
that's something that I think is actually really important, because I think most people want it to be real. Most people want to have an experience, and it's like sometimes I find people will validate things that are not valid. Do you know
Yep.
what I mean? So it's like you really have to kind of you play the line with what is real and what's not, and you really have to be able to feel that. And I think for you too, I mean, I watched you and I watched Arlene and I watched everybody that night. You guys weren't just using your machines, you were using your senses, you were using your sensitivities. Which leads me to this question I've actually never asked you before. How do you pick your team?
People I trust. That's the biggest thing for me, is people I trust and I have a lot of respect for. I'm not going to just pick somebody off the street who says, hey, I think I'd be great at this. I want to know them. I want to know about them. Or if someone who's on my team has a relationship with that person and they can vouch for them, then we can try it out. But with this, I think you have to be with people that you trust. And respect. And of course you're way up on that list, Angel. That's why I asked you.
Yeah, well, it's really funny because I mean, I've had experience with, I think, one of the groups that you had an experience with. And I remember the first time I saw you, it was outside in the hallway of the Stephen Leacock. And right away, I remember looking at you and going, there's something different about him. He's not like the rest. And right there was the connection made for me. And then here we are years later, right?
Yeah.
So you never know when those connections are made.
You walked up to me and said, I think I met you before. And I said, no. And I know you from somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool. Graziana Fernandez says, thank you, Glenn and Angel, for sharing your experiences. And okay, here's something interesting. And Nag 16 says, I have so many questions about our home 1888. Now, here's my question. Do you feel like the older the house, the more potential there is for it to be haunted?
Nope.
Nope.
I've done more houses that are newer than older.
Really?
And I think part of it could be the property that it's built on. It could be items that have been brought into the house.
Do you think because of broken ground and stuff like that, because of the construction itself, to bring things up?
Breaking ground, and also what previous homeowners were doing in that house. I mean, you always, you'll get to a house and then you find out, oh yeah, well, they actually were doing seances here all the time, and they're, and it's like, I mean. Yeah. But I also think the age of the house, like, it helps, but it isn't the deciding factor.
No, definitely not. Definitely. Okay, I see that. But it's very interesting you just said that, though. And I was just talking to Diane at the Hedge Witch today, and we were saying that. Have you noticed that there's an increase of people wanting to experience the paranormal, who are dabbling, who are playing, who are doing this, which is great for us because it's bringing us work. But the reality is that I think that one of the things I want to really put in people's heads tonight, too, is, do things safely. Right? Even us, we work in this world, but it's always safety first, right? Even me, if I do a clearing, it's safety in numbers. You don't work alone. If you're working with a tool of some sort, whether it's a pendulum, whether it's a Ouija board, whether it's an angel board, I don't care what it is. You need to know what you're doing before you step into it. Don't assume that, oh, you know what, this is fun and we're working with ghosts and we can call up whatever we want. Guess what? This is real.
Yeah, know the repercussions of what you're doing, because there will be repercussions for it. And also I think things have picked up is because of COVID. People are at home. They're sitting at home and they're listening to their house, and all of a sudden they're going, "Oh, well, that's peculiar."
Yeah.
And but there was you were saying earlier about trying to debunk things. I just wanted to go back to that quickly for a second. There was I go in as a skeptic. I want to disprove everything I possibly can, because then when you do find something, that's really interesting, because then it's like, well, maybe it is, maybe it's not. But we did a house one time, and really wonderful lady. Her two children. One was like 8 and 12. I think the kids were. They were terrified. They're all sleeping in one bedroom because their house was haunted. There was Their daughter's bed was vibrating at night. She was seeing faces and shapes in her room. And after a couple of hours being there, I said, there's nothing happening here in your house. There's absolutely no activity in your house at all.
Yeah.
And she got a little offended. And she's like, no, I'm telling you it's haunted. And I said, no. She goes, what about my daughter? I said, well, can we talk to your daughter for a second? So in comes a 12-year-old daughter. And I suspected what was going on because I saw the cord. And I said to her daughter, I said, no, I need you to answer a question really honestly. Do you sleep with your phone under your pillow? And she goes, yeah. And I said, okay, we're not going to do that anymore. Because I saw the power cord for the phone sticking up from under her pillow when we went through the room. Her phone was vibrating under her pillow at night.
Yeah.
And then as far as the shapes, she had about a 4-foot mirror leaning against the wall at the foot of her bed. She was seeing herself in the dark.
Aww.
We stopped the phone, we moved the mirror, problem solved. They are all back in their proper bedrooms. Everybody's calm. And that's where you really help somebody. You know, that's where you're,
Oh my God, it's so true. Sometimes it's not about the spirits. It's not about the house. It's about the family and just helping in whatever way you can. And Nancy YW says 100% agree, Glenn. Interesting. I have this one statement here. And Nag 16 says, so my parents just moved into a new building, Sharon. I say all the time, I feel more activity there than there. So here's the deal. Do you feel that some locations, communities themselves are more haunted than others?
Absolutely.
Oh, good. We're on the same page. Yeah, me too. Yeah, me too. I lived in Keswick. And there are some areas there that are energetically sketchy for me. And I loved living there partly because of that. Right. And you have to understand too, from my perspective, it depends on where you live too. Like forests have their own spirits and, water has its own spirit. So if you have a community that's a water community or a forest community, it may not be an unsettled spirit. It may not be the spirit of your aunt or their uncle or a tragedy that happened. It can actually, and again, I don't know if you've encountered this, but I mean, I have, is elementals. Elementals are spirits that are literally, connected to the water somehow, or connected to the forest somehow, or have been there for years and years and years on that land itself. And how do you feel about that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm in Belhaven. And the first time I went to our friends at the Hedge Witch, she said, you've got spirits in your house, and they've actually invited more spirits in with them. And Belhaven is a very old area. Actually, this would have been the center of Georgina at one point, because this is where the stagecoach station was. Right. And then the train station ended up going through Sutton. So Belhaven died as a community, and it's just a small little hamlet now. But there's so much history here. But from when somebody tells you that a spirit invited other spirits in.
Yeah, exactly.
Sort of goes, but they didn't ask me.
I kind of live there too. I'm a roommate. Like, don't I have a say?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a question. This comes from one of our viewers. Wesley Lou says, do you ask for white light frosts around you? So protections. Do you guys put protections around you, or do you carry protections with you that are tangibles? Like, what do you, or do you just not do? Do you just believe that, hey, you know what, I'm okay, and I go in?
Some of our team does. And I encourage you to whatever makes you feel good. Yeah. I know I probably should, but I don't. And I used to make jokes about it, because I used to keep a piece of tourmaline on a neck string, and I used to keep it around my neck. Yeah. And I used to have this running joke saying, "Okay, well, let's go in, grip your rock, let's go."
Rip your rock, I love it.
And but I know I should. And the only thing that we will do is when we leave a location, I'm very big on saying out loud, okay, I'm leaving now, and you're not allowed to follow me home. Yeah. That's one thing that I'm very big on, and saying it forcibly, like, we're leaving, and you're not following us.
You are staying here. Yeah, you don't want to take, yes, absolutely. One of the things, what was I going to say? It was about protections, and it was about... Oh yeah, that's what I was gonna say. So I have this friend who works with a lot of lower energy stuff, right? So he does removals and he does really, really heavy work. And I asked him one time, I said, aren't you ever scared of some of the darker things you work with? And he goes, no. He goes, for three reasons. And I said, well, what are those? And he goes, one, he goes, I have protections in my pocket. That's the tangible. And he goes, two, I believe I am always protected, right? So three is the most important. And I said, what's that? And he goes, I have humor. He goes, if my light is big, if I have a strong energy, nothing can get past that light. The dark doesn't like the light. So he has like a threefold protection thing. But he said, but my strongest one is my humor. And this guy used to look like, he looked like Santa Claus, and he always had a joke for you. And you're just like, how the hell do you do the work you do, but you have so much light around you? That's his protection.
I agree at 100% with the humor. Yeah. And when we're doing an investigation, I do try to keep it light. And there's many times where we'll have a spirit box going, and somebody might pop a joke, which I encourage.
Yep. And
we'll hear laughter come through the spirit box.
Yep. Ghosts have a sense of humor, people. They do.
They do. Well, I mean, here's a classic ghost having a sense of humor.
Yeah.
And I've got the recording for it. It's hilarious. I was walking around in the dark and I tripped, and all you hear is boom, crash, thump, and you hear me tripping.
Yeah.
Right after that, I got an amazing EVP of a man's voice, and he used the full word. He says, well, you F that up. And
well, even in our investigation, remember what happened in our investigation? Because you and Justin were in the room, and we got it on tape, and he said something, and you turned around and said, it's okay, don't worry. Or he said it was okay, you don't worry. What was that? I can't remember.
Oh, we were F-bombed.
What?
We were given an F-bomb in
the
bedroom.
Yeah.
And Justin said, did you just swear at us? And I said, don't worry about it. We're all adults. We can handle that.
It was really funny. That was hilarious. Gen 9 Lar, you guys are awesome. I would love to do a ghost investigation. You're so right. Don't provoke the ghost. Okay, so now what happens? Somebody feels like my house is haunted. How do they go about finding the Ontario Paranormal Society? And can they come from anywhere in Ontario?
I mean, there are other teams. So I mean, if there's there is a team out now in Oshawa. There's some down in Southern Ontario. And if I get a case given to me in that area, I might just pass it off to another team who's closer. Right. Because and they do the same for me. But I mean, it's not uncommon for us to travel a couple of hours to go to a location.
So how do they contact you? How would they find you?
On our webpage or on our Facebook page. Our email address is topsyorkregion@gmail.com.
And you guys can always go to their Instagram page, which is Tops York Region. You can contact them through there as well, I think, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. I don't give out a phone number because we're dealing with the paranormal, and for some reason that does lend itself for people doing pranks. And people will poke fun at it, and I had to get that. Whatever, I don't care.
I'm sorry, I missed that. Say that again. Sorry, I missed that.
It's just that I don't put out a phone number because of the field we're dealing in. I find that some people they'll pull pranks, and I don't have time for that. So
but the majority of companies don't put a phone number anymore. Like even I have a phone number and I will answer the phone sometimes, but if I don't, it actually goes straight to email. So you can get that as well, so that I have the voicemail and everything on my email, so you can do that. That's how I forward it now.
Okay.
Right. So if I'm not answering the phone or my assistant's not answering the phone, we still get it through our emails. Right? Yeah. So that kind of works too. Okay, so let's see. Daniel Perezarias says, I've heard that ghosts don't let weak people to see them. Perhaps that's why I haven't seen anything. Is it true? No, it's not. It has nothing to do with being weak or strong. Okay, that has nothing to do with anything. Some people are just able to see because that's their special gift. We're all intuitive, we're all psychic, but the reality is some of us it's easier for us to talk to animals. Some of us, it's easier to be mediums, and we can see ghosts. My son sees, I don't necessarily. I'm only starting to. Like even Diana at the Hedrick, she's been doing this forever. And she told me today, I was shocked. She goes, I don't see things in front of me like they're present. She goes, I see them in my third eye. So please understand, some people don't see it. They'll feel it. Or even more, they'll just know that a spirit is there. Sometimes we have the knowing. Italians, and every culture has that too, eh? Every culture has a very specific ability. So please understand, Danielle, it doesn't mean that anybody is weak. It just means that you need to explore what your abilities are and even develop it so it can get stronger. Yeah.
It's become a bit of a running joke with some of my team that if there's activity around, I get sweats on my forehead.
Yeah.
And they're
everyone
like,
registers it different. Yeah.
Yeah. And they'll look at me and go, oh, he's sweating. And I've actually made the joke, well, it could be worse. I could get gas. So.
Well, Nancy just said, she said, Glenn, you have a light around you and it's very obvious that you can see it. And I agree with you. Yeah, it's lovely. And that's one of the things I really like too. If you watch people when they're passionate and anybody can do this. When you're talking to somebody and they're passionate about what they do, you can actually see light around them. And sometimes it's even colored like an aura. And it's really, really cool to watch that. So you guys at home, you guys can try that. Let's see. Jen says, I always think it would help to be calm when ghost hunting. Okay, that's a really good one. You don't want to start screaming at the slightest noise and have to figure out later what it was and what something was unexplained. Okay, so that's the thing too. Do you feel, because I do you feel you have to have a certain disposition to do this kind of work?
Yes. Don't be afraid of the dark. Try not to be afraid of spiders because you are going into basements. But yeah, you don't want to be too jumpy. Like I said, the only time I've ever jumped, it was nothing from an investigation. It was somebody that actually booed me. I've never ever been afraid or scared at investigation, and I try to instill that with my team. My team's awesome, and well, you're one of the teams, so you're awesome. But everybody is so calm and is so objective about it.
Yeah.
And when they do get a response, it's not like, oh my gosh. It's like, wow, that's amazing. With Darlene, when she got her first EVP, I tell you, I've never seen anybody so excited. I remember I found it and I sent it to her from her recordings, and you hear her go, "Do you know that you're not alive?" And a man's voice came back and went, "Yes."
Nice.
And I remember I sent it to her, and she called me. She goes, all my life I've wanted to do this sort of thing, and I've actually got my first EVP and my first actual response to a question. She goes, this is my dream. And that's amazing. A fantastic attitude.
Yeah. And I believe too that because of whatever abilities we have, we will be given the disposition to handle them, right? Garcia 1959 says, you guys are unbelievable. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's a really interesting thing as you were saying that, it just occurred to me that the only time I really jump is if my fiance does. Like if he goes, oh my God, what was that? I'll be like, oh my God. And then I'll get scared. I'll be like, oh my God, what was that? What was that? But for the most part, if I'm doing work with you or even my own work, I don't really get fazed by it. It just doesn't, I'm just like, okay, then you know what? Let's party. What is it that you need? You know, what do you want me to do? What is it that you're looking for? Even if it's a heavier energy, I find that I'm predisposed to, my first instinct is hunker down, right? Get solid and go, okay, what's going on? What do you need? Mm-hmm. Right? And I find that only certain people have that kind of disposition. If you don't have that disposition, it's okay. It just means you're not, made out to be a paranormal investigator, and that's okay.
I'm more the type that goes straight in. If I hear something, I'm not going, what was that? I'm like, oh, what was that? Hey, let's go.
Yeah. And my son is like that. My son's like, oh, what's that? Gone.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, I told you that story.
I did an investigation one time, and I did kind of freak out somebody a little bit. Well, it was just more the expression, because it was in a church, one of the oldest churches in Toronto. We did an investigation in. Oh, wow. Actually, I think it was built in 1846. This house, and actually the timber was from old sailing ships that they tore down in the 1800s. It was amazing, this church. And we were sitting in this room, dead silence. And the look on my fellow investigator's face, because he's going, is there anybody here with us? And this really, really deep growl went through the room. Wow. And he looked at me like this, and I went, yeah, that was my stomach. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Sorry. I'm so sorry.
But you know, that's part of it too, right? Is the joy of it, the fun of it, the camaraderie of it. It's
Well,
amazing.
I know, and we couldn't use any of the recording because after that, the two of us couldn't stop laughing.
Yeah.
And we're laughing about it. And I mean, that place, although it was an incredible investigation, we were sitting in the actual chapel on the altar, like real respectful. Here we are sitting on the altar, pitch black. One stipulation they had was no cameras because it's still a working church. They didn't want to have. So we're sitting there, and we actually watched on the balcony a full apparition of a woman flow across the balcony and then go back. And then she went. I remember I looked up, and the first thing I thought, we don't have a camera. And and it went up the stairs, and there was a light on in the back room, and it went through the doorway. It blocked the light when it went through the door, and then it was gone. And it's one of those things where, and that's always what happens. It happens when your camera's not in your hand.
I was just going to say that. Do you know how many times I'm like, shit, I wish I had my camera. I wish I had my phone. I wish I had my this. I wish I had my that. You know how many times I've said that? I can't even tell you. Thank you so much for being with me tonight, for being with us tonight, Glenn. You are incredible. And I will tell you, I'm going to have you back because I want to hear more stories because I know you have more investigations coming up. Tell people, please, where do we find you again?
TopsYorkRegion.com and or at TopsYorkRegion@gmail.com, or go to our Facebook site, the Ontario Paranormal Society York Region Chapter.
And you can also actually find him in my tag section, and you can find him in my gallery at Raising Energy. I have him all over the place. So you'll see him there.
Do I get time to throw in one last comment?
Oh, please.
Okay. If you want to get into paranormal investigations, don't use apps. All the apps you see on your phones, do not use apps. They are nothing. Remember Pokemon Go? You saw monsters everywhere. The ghost apps were designed for entertainment purposes. Yes, you will see a ghost. It's nothing there. Do not use apps. I see so many people that will call us. We had one person contact us one time, look at these pictures of this ghost, and I've looked at it and hang on, there's like a sun around this face. It was an app that was putting little faces in the room, and she was showing it to her parents, and the parents were getting, no, don't use apps. Absolutely nothing.
Okay, so before we go, I do have one question.
Yep.
If somebody does want to become a paranormal investigator, if somebody wants to get involved in this kind of thing, what can they do? What advice do you have someone out there, even somebody young out there who's interested in this kind of thing?
Get a good audio recorder. And use your eyes and your ears. You don't, that just listen and you even all your senses, your smell, your eyes, and sit quietly and record and get a good camera. Don't use your phone as a camera. You get a good camera. It's this because the phones will actually interfere with other equipment and get a decent EMF. Phones will knock an EMF detector for a loop.
Okay, that would make sense. All right. Okay.
Because they're constantly broadcasting, looking for a connection, and it'll set them off. And get a good Gauss meter, EMF detector. So a recorder, an EMF detector, and just have the attitude. And don't bother going to cemeteries. You won't find anything in a cemetery. There's nothing.
I was just going to say that. I used to know a boy, and he wanted to be a Ghostbuster because he'd seen the movie. And he would go after school to the local graveyard and just sit. And he'd just sit. And I'd be like, okay, why are you sitting there? And he goes, I can't afford a camera. So I'm just hoping that they talk to me. And I'm like, okay. So I get it.
Good for him. But the thing is, the cemeteries why would they want to be there? They're going to be where they were happy. They're going to be where they're familiar with. They're not going to be at the cemetery.
Well, it's not only that. Even if they are there, that's their place. See, my thing is that's their place of rest, right? Yes. So if that's their place of rest, just let it be. It's not like it's a home where it's an unusual or unique circumstance. That's where they're supposed to be. Leave them alone. If you're sleeping, do you want somebody to come wake you up?
No. If you're a family member, do you want someone walking around a family member's tombstone with a recorder? It's
a little, that to me is a little creepy. Yeah. Thank you, Glenn, for being here tonight.
My pleasure.
You're so awesome. I cannot wait to get on more investigations with you. I know we have one coming up in November. So guys, stay tuned. I still have footage coming from our last investigation. So there's a lot of exciting things coming.
I sent you that one video.
Sorry?
I sent you that one.
I still can't open it. Oh no, but I couldn't open it because I didn't have my laptop. So my cat dropped water on my laptop and my laptop died, which is my thing for, okay, you know what? You got to just slow down a little bit on the business thing. But I got my laptop back. So I'm actually going to do that right now.
Okay, because basically what happens is you're starting to do a clearing.
Okay.
And my battery life on my camera went from 2.5 hours, boom, 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 down to 0.
I remember that.
Seconds. And my battery drained completely. And that is like, to me, that's a fantastic piece of evidence. Because
batteries don't drain that quickly.
They don't drain that quickly. And what it happens with battery devices, they'll get sucked dry and then activity amps up because
what about
an energy source.
What about that globe thing? We didn't talk about that globe thing.
It's just a plasma ball. You'll see them at some people have them as decorations. I use it because it brings up the EMF level in the room, and I say you can use it as an energy source.
Nice.
And I've had great success with it. Oh, another thing, if somebody wants to get into not ghost busting, but paranormal investigations, never invite anything to touch you. Do not let anything touch you. I see that all the time, saying if you're respectful, you can touch my hair. No, nothing is allowed to touch you.
Yeah, you keep your space, I'll keep mine.
Yeah,
and you know, from the primal perspective, when it comes to ceremony, we always say no touching. No, we set those boundaries also because when a spirit touches a human energy field or touches a human, it actually can make you sick. Like you can feel nauseous. You can feel really bad. There are cultures where they have what's called mounting, where they actually invite the spirit to come in. That's a completely different thing. That's a skill. It's ritualistic. It's part of a, you know, religion or culture. That is not, that's even for psychics, it's a no-no.
Mm-hmm.
So,
oh yeah, I've been there. I felt it. It's not a nice feeling.
Yeah.
And for anybody to say, hey, do you want to draw some energy from me? Big mistake.
Oh God, no.
Plasma ball. That's why
you are not a plasma ball. You want to use that for sure. Now, having said that, if it's a grandmother and a grandfather and they will come to you, you don't have to invite them to come to you, right? So if it's an ancestor, that's a little bit different. But again, they'll come to you and that's a comfortable thing. We're talking about you're in a space, it's not your space, and this is somebody else's monkey, okay? So yeah, we'll leave it at that.
I agree.
Thank you. All right.
Great evening.
You too. All right, I'll talk to you later.
Okay,
and we'll touch base, okay?
Great, we will.
All right.
Goodbye.
Everybody, thank you for being here. This has been absolutely phenomenal. I had so much fun with Glenn. Guys, you guys are absolutely awesome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for this Halloween weekend. Or sorry, this Halloween week, all the fun we've had with the readings and the interviews. And don't forget on Sunday night at 8 p.m., 6:40 a.m., I'm going to be a guest on the parenting show. So you're going to want to listen to that because the readings are incredible. We're talking to Pina Costa and Miranda, and I can't ever say her name right, so I do apologize, and Sarah Blackwood. So yeah, guys, check that out. That's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you so much. I hope you guys have an amazing evening. Thank you. And we will talk to you guys very soon.